I wrote this morning. I don't have my reading glasses. It's handwritten, and if you stumble, hear me stumble, you'll know why. I write stories based on the Sheriff's Calls entries in the Point Reyes Light, which is a newspaper of West Marin. So the first thing you'll hear is the entry, and I'll go right into the story. This came out of May 31st's paper, Point Reyes Station. At 7:07 a.m., a man wearing an apron but no pants was walking down the road pushing a shopping cart. The man told deputies he'd made a makeshift pair of pants as his other pair was soiled. "Not soiled that way," Albert said, smoothing the ends of his mustache and feeling very offended. "I fell in the mud." "Are you a long way home? Need a ride?" Linda asked, taking a sip of her coffee from the bovine and leaning out the window of her cruiser. "Good thing it's early, huh?" Albert said. Amongst other things, pants, the first among them. He needed more mustache wax, and that he didn't have, nor did he have any money. No one would give him money if he stood outside the station house cafe without any pants. He'd been growing his illustrious mustache since he'd been 25, and it was his best feature. Now, however, it was drooping along with his apron. "Pardon me, ma'am," he said, hiding behind his shopping cart and adjusting things. It was a little breezy. "Any place you can get some pants, Bud?" Linda asked, not sure if she wanted him in her cruiser. Last time it had taken her more than 2 hours to get the odors out. As a cop who worked on a shift-rotating basis, she had had them all in her car. "The thrift shop doesn't open until 11, she said, and she couldn't leave him here until then. "Hop in the cruiser," she asked, hoping it would be all right. "I'm not leaving my stuff," Albert said, not his last smidge of mustache wax, his sleeping bag of cans, and shirt, sweater, and jacket. "Then follow me to the station. I'm sure one of the guys has a spare pair of pants somewhere, as long as she didn't have to touch him. Okay, Bud?" Albert thought maybe she was going to bring him in, take him to Unit B or something. Instead of saying no, he waved hello and said thanks. His mother had always taught him to be polite, and she'd be pleased. As soon as the deputy turned off Route 1, he headed down B Street and away. He found a place on the street opposite, just a bit off into the bushes where he could not be seen. All he needed was water. He looked into the creek. That water wasn't clean enough. Would put more mud in his pants rather than less. Back in town to find a house, a tap, and then he'd see tourists. He thought not. Slowly and carefully he sunk his mud-clad pants into the creek. With a stick he got most of it off. The sun had broken over the hills, flooding him with light, but it wasn't quite enough to dry his blue jeans that fast. So he spread them out on a rock, and noticing the silence and the birds and all that, lay down against a log, letting his winter-white legs get some vitamin D. That was the new cure-all, wasn't it? He'd read it online. 2 hours later, footsteps appeared in his little beach, a dog who sniffed at Albert in the usual dog places, which woke him up in a hurry. When the beagle went to pee on Albert's pants, Albert jumped up and charged him. A boy entered the clearing and screamed, "Mom, Mom, it's a naked man, Mom!" The boy, all of 4, took off up the beach. Beyond a set of bushes, he reached his mother, still screaming. The dog, hearing the excitement, ran after him. Albert covered himself with his apron. He hadn't done anything wrong. People were always talking about going back to nature. He was natural. What was the problem? He tried to cover himself with his cardigan like he had done in town, but the wheels kept getting stuck in the sand. A white woman peered over the bushes and screamed, "Turn around, Harold, and march. That's a man exposing himself. My God, Harold, hurry. No, don't look back. I'm going to the cops." Albert's peace was disrupted. He didn't want to go to jail. He pulled on his soaked blue jeans over his warm, dry skin, and they clung to him, making him shiver and his eyes water. Whatever he had done was bad. His mother would be angry. With his pant legs sticking to his legs and wishing more than anything for a warm cup of coffee and a shower, He pushed on deeper into the bushes, pulling and pushing his cart ahead of him. Linda, the deputy, found him later that afternoon, a glint of his cart through the blackberry bushes. Albert had been watching for anyone from them, and had dozed off, wet pants and all. He heard the crackle of dried twigs and looked up. "I've brought a blanket, a cup of coffee, and the boys gave me some pants. We weren't sure which size you wore, so I have 28s, 32s, and 34s. They're old, but they're clean. Shall I turn my back?" "You going to take me in?" asked Albert, dry-mouthed, sipping that coffee that flowed down his throat and soothed his cold, half-naked, skinny body. "A bit down on my luck, I'm afraid," he said. "Thank you." A moment later he drowned all his coffee and was about to throw his empty cup in the bushes and instead eyed her. "How come you've been so nice to me?" he asked. "'Cause I've been there," Linda said, wistfully patting her equipment belt and wondering how she was going to write up this report. "Tell you what," she said, clicking off her radio, "we have need for someone like you at the station." "A job?" Albert asked, thinking fast. The new pants felt great. But a job? He wasn't so sure. He didn't follow directions well. "We need someone to keep the place clean, outside," Linda said, seeing the relief on his face. "And your name, sir, for my files?" "Bertrand," Albert said. Lying was his forte. "You want to follow me to the station for your first assignment? We have a lot of ivy that's out of control." "All in good time," Albert said, smoothing his mustache. He thought a moment. "Yes, I will follow you, but I have a request, one small request." "We will provide food for you if that's what you want, Bertrand." "Food, yes, good idea, but how about a few bucks first?" "We're not stopping at any bar, not under my watch. You're my responsibility now. Don't ruin it." "I need to buy more mustache wax," Albert said, "if you don't mind," closing his hands. "I want to look spiffy on my first day on the job. Thank you."